Hi guys, my name is Aaron and I read fantasy. Today's video is the December reading wrap up. I don't like that. Oh my god, I can't speak. Can you delete all of this? Hi guys, my name is Aaron and I read fantasy. Today's video is the December reading wrap up. Okay, reading stats for stat nerds. This month I read 1 romance, 10 fantasy romances, 1 sci-fi, and 2 epic fantasies. Most of the month was taken over by J.L.A OMG. Starting off the month with A Shadow in Ember. This was the first of a quick series of 5-star book recommendations from me. If you loved From Blood and Ash, but you wanted the pacing to go faster, or you wanted more of the magic system to be delivered right away, then the prequel series is for you. Shadow in the Ember is the first book in A Flesh and Fire, which is the title of the prequel series. This was fleshed out so much better than From Blood and Ash. Even from the very first book, the action just kind of kicked up, and this was, as I said before, a quick 5-star book. I enjoyed it so much that I picked up the second book in the series, A Light in the Flame. This book I really enjoyed. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Which is a great rating for me. I just didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, but I kept reading. So I read the third book in the series, A Fire in the Flesh. Unfortunately, the third book was 3 stars for me because of our female MC, who I have loved. And in the book 1 and 2, our female MC is in a weaker state. I'm not going to talk about major plot points, especially because this is book 3, but one could argue that in book 1 and in book 2, our female main character is much weaker than she ends up being in this book and in later books. And most of book 3, we find our female MC completely helpless because she refuses to use her own strength and to come into her own strength. And towards the end of the book, she finally decides to use her own strength in order to conquer the situation that she's in, which is really frustrating when you read a book that's more than 400 pages of someone sitting and they're helpless, and you as the reader, you know that this person is not helpless, you know that this person is powerful, and they just refuse to learn how to use their abilities. And then at the end of the book, they save themselves. It just... And that's why that book is 3 stars for me, but that didn't stop me from reading Miss J.L.A OMG. Kept going, and I picked up the 4th and final book in the prequel series, Born of Blood and Ash. Now, this book, it gave back exactly what I was looking for from books 1 and 2, and this book was so epic. There's actually a specific reading order for the Flesh and Fire and From Blood and Ash. You're supposed to read like one book here and then jump back into the current series, but once I started reading A Flesh and Fire, I could not jump back into From Blood and Ash, so I had to finish the series, and I'm glad I did. Born of Blood and Ash was a 4.5 star for me, and I actually prefer the prequel series to the current series. But because the prequel series was over, I had to jump back into where I am in the from Blood and Ash series, which at the time was book 4. The War of Two Queens. So if you've read the 3rd book in From Blood and Ash, then you know there's this huge cliffhanger and we're waiting on all of these things to be resolved. And fortunately, Jennifer L. Armentrout gave us what we were looking for in such an epic way with the battle scenes at the end. But I do have problems with this book. And my main issues with this book were the prequel series. So in the prequel series, we get these characters who are seemingly invincible. And then when we get back to those same characters in the current timeline, these people that were unbeatable in the prequel series are defeated by lesser people. I mean, it just made the writing of the prequel series seem almost a bit pointless, or it killed the stakes of the other series. And it made me question, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to your own writing, to your own characters? But of course, in the way that she does with all of her books, the ending is crazy and you have to pick up the next book. So I did. Soul of Ash and Blood was the last book that I picked up in From Blood and Ash. This was a money grab. We come to this book and it's the male main character's point of view from the first book. 8 books have passed at this point, and now we go back to the male main character's point of view. It completely stops the plot at this huge cliffhanger in book 4, and then we go back to book 1, and there's no plot development until the last 10 pages of the book. I would really, really want to say, skip this book. But of course, you can't skip this book. But you could skip to the end of this book, which is horrible. But this book is a cash grab. Like, there's no plot development, and even hearing the stories of how they met and all of these things from the first book, it's not really new information. It's just saying, this is what I was thinking at the time, and unfortunately, after 8 books have passed, I don't care. I was really disappointed in that with Jennifer L. Armentrout, and because of that, I mean, it's the last book that she's released in the series so far. But I was happy about that, so I decided to pick up something else. After my disappointment with the Jennifer L. Armentrout release, I decided to pick up something else. I picked up book 1 in the All for the Game series, The Foxhole Court. I saw some videos earlier this summer and I got really, really excited about romance, something that was easy to pick up, quick reading, and I guess I thought that I was signing up for something that I wasn't, because there's no romance in the first book. It's not even super duper abundant to me who the other love interest is, and this is the MM book that I was reading. It's not really clear to me. It's clear who the main character is, but it's not clear who his love interest is, because there are 2 people and it's really a bully romance, if there's a romance at all, but there's no kind of chemistry happening. it ended up being a 3.5 star for me. It wasn't bad because there are so many twists and turns and things that happen in the book. But when you're looking for a romance and you end up finding kind of a thriller, it wasn't bad, but not mind-blowing at all. But it's not going to stop me from picking up book number 2. I had to pick up Melissa K. Rourke's latest release, Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. And thank goodness for me, this was a 6-star read. The Legacy series in general with Melissa K. Rourke is a love-hate series, but definitely more love than hate, because our female MC in book 2 in particular, I found extraordinarily frustrating because I felt like she was willfully not... I don't know how to really describe it. But this latest release, book number 3 in the Legacy series, I was so proud of our female character because she comes into her own. And even if the decisions that she made sometimes were to her detriment, it was so refreshing after books 1 and 2. Please check your trigger warnings. This is dark fantasy romance, but book 1 and 2 were very heavy and really devastating at some points. And it's so refreshing to see in book 3 her come into her own, really, and to take control of the situation with whatever resources that she had to take. Yes, our main character makes some horrible decisions, but in this book number 3 versus book number 2, when she made a horrible decision, I really wasn't frustrated with her because of the horrible situation. I really understood that, you know, when you feel like you can't trust anyone, do you lose in any kind of scenario? So I don't know. Maybe it's the writing. I'm not sure. But this was a 6-star book for me. I love to see it. I can't wait to see the 4th installment. I have my fingers crossed that we'll see something next year, but we have no release date and no title for that book. Leaving Melissa K. Rourke, I picked up book 2 in the Red Rising saga. I am not a sci-fi guy, and books 1 and book 2 have really shaken me. I think next year I will be picking up some sci-fi books because this is just so epic. I know there are some people that really loved Red Rising book number 1, and I'm one of those people. But there's another tribe of people that didn't love book 1, but they absolutely ate up book 2. I love book 1, but book 2 just ate me alive. The ending of book 2, it's rare to feel so hopeless about the main character situation and really truly believe that they are going to not make it out of a situation. And Pierce Brown really is able to do that. Even though it's a trilogy, the first 3 books in the series has the second trilogy now, and even book 6 was released, and that's another hopeful for me. Red Rising number 7. This is incredible writing. If this is a space opera, epic space writing on a level that If you're a fantasy reader and you want to read a sci-fi book, this is it. This is it. But because I was crazy this month, apparently I read another Jennifer L. Armentrout book. I saw that in 2023, Armentrout released another fantasy romance series, the Awakening series, and I picked up the first book, Fall of Ruin and Wrath, and this book wasn't something that was super hyped on Booktube or Book Talk. Not that I saw anyway. It was okay. It didn't blow me away. And I think at the time I rated it 4 stars, but now I'm thinking it's more of a 3.5. And I will continue on in the series because I do enjoy Jennifer L. Armentrout's writing. That's the last Jennifer L. Armentrout book, I promise. I decided to pick up another book that this one is super hyped on Booktube. And unfortunately, I think I was looking for it to be something that it wasn't. It's Jade City, book number 1 in the Greenbone saga. I was looking for this epic fantasy, with lots of magic, and this just was not that. This was a mafia family drama. No issues with that, but more magic, please. I was waiting for this to be like, I don't know, like a Stormlight Archive or like a Wheel of Time, like some epic fantasy series that really sucks the life out of you, but you have to keep reading it. And this wasn't that. I think if this was sold as like an easy read kind of thing, I guess my version of the easy read is kind of intense, but this is a kung fu novel that incorporates beautiful Asian themes and culture that we don't see in mainstream literature a lot. And if it was sold more as that with a soft magic system, I think I could have been better prepared to read this, and I probably would have rated it higher, but it ended up being a 3-star for me, and I'm not really sure that I don't want to DNF the series. After reading through Jade City, I picked up my most disappointing read of the year, and unfortunately it's from an author that I really enjoy and respect, Carissa Broadbent. This was a 2-star book for me. The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, book 3 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, I didn't understand. I thought this was almost a different author to me. Our female main character, Misha, in the first 2 books is a side character who is a fucking badass. And this book, like, really... I'm speechless. It destroyed her character to me. This is a 1-star book for me. I'm almost 100% sure I want to DNF the series after reading that. I don't understand what happened with this. It was just very disappointing for me. So I took, for the next book that I decided to read in the month, I took inspiration from raven-haired reader, Rachel, because usually her taste and my taste in terms of fanro, there's, Rachel has never failed. So I picked up the Book of Azrael, and she's been talking about this book for a year. I picked it up, and of course, she never disappoints. It was a 4.5 star for me. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to pick up the next book in the series, and that'll be on my January TBR. I loved it. with Wind and Truth, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive, being released this month, I was having extreme FOMO. And I decided to pick up the first book, The Way of Kings. And it was a 4.5 star for me as well. So we're ending the year strong with my first Brandon Sanderson read. The thing I will say about this series, the first book in any fantasy or fantasy romance is always the most difficult part of the book for me to read, because two things. In the first book, at least in fantasy romance, usually whatever happens in the first book is completely changed later on in the story. So there's that aspect, but you also have like the world building and discovering the magic system, which consumed parts 1 through 3 for the most part for me. 3 was a little bit better because we got to see more magic and more hints as to what the magic actually does, and the magic system is awesome. Thank goodness for Zeth in part 1 and part 2, because what he's doing with the magic, it grabs you so much that it's like, okay, so when are the other characters gonna start doing this stuff, and what is this, and can this be explained, and what is this person? And you have all of these questions, and some of the pieces start to fall together in part 4, and then in part 5 with this cliffhanger and all of this information that we get. So in the first book, our main 3 characters, Zeth, by the way, isn't even a main character. He's a side character that comes in these 1 to 2 page interludes, and he's had a huge impact in book 1. But our main 3 characters are actually Kaladin, Dalinar, and Shallan. And the 3 of these individuals, I'm so excited to see where this journey is going. Picking up this first Brandon Sanderson novel, it's so clear to me that Robert Jordan was an inspiration, because although the world building and so on and so forth in parts 1 and 2 and the first half of 3 weren't super duper interesting to me, shall I say, I could see, feel, hear so much of the Jordan influence in the writing that it really felt like I was coming home to something. I am currently reading the Wheel of Time series. I'm on book number 9. This was amazing. I immediately picked up book number 2, Words of Radiance, which I'm still reading. These are thick books, so I don't anticipate being done with Words of Radiance before January. And these are all the books I read this month. Thanks for watching.